What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over my week 3 fantasy football must starts. Comment down below who you think is going to go off this week and who should be in your lineups. If you enjoy the content today, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Okay, so getting started with the running back position, these are my 4 guys that I think are really going to have great games this upcoming weekend and need to be in your lineup. So starting with Javonte Williams going up against the New York Jets. The New York Jets rank 23rd defensively and are playing pretty solid up against the run, but they've allowed 3 rushing touchdowns in 2 games, and in both games, the opposing running back was a top 20 option. So I do really like Javonte Williams in this game. I think this is the week where he separates himself from Melvin Gordon, who didn't look too great last week. And another running back that I'm going to be high on this week is Chris Carson going up against Minnesota. Now, their run defense is actually pretty good, and their defense overall is pretty solid, but this is a game with a high projected point total, and Chris Carson is going to fall into the end zone at least once. And he has a touchdown in all 4 games he has played against Minnesota in his career, and that's coming from 2018 to current. So Chris Carson does have success against Minnesota, and their defense hasn't changed up too much to where you should be avoiding him in this matchup. And in all of those games, Chris Carson has registered at least 20 carries. So from a volume perspective as well, you should be really happy with what Chris Carson provides you this week. And third guy that I'm going to put out there is Saquon Barkley. I know if you're a fantasy owner of Saquon Barkley, you have so many questions at this point just because he's had a slow start, but you should have expected that from Saquon coming off of that terrible knee injury. And he's actually coming off of a Thursday night game, so he has, 10 days rest. He should be able to be fully healthy, and basically he's ready to get that full workload. So against Atlanta, the worst defense in the NFL, damn near, I think that the Giants and Saquon Barkley have, pretty much an offensive explosion, and he comes back to being an elite running back in the NFL. The running backs going up against the Falcons are averaging 5 yards per carry as well. And like I said, coming off of that rest, I think Saquon is going to show, the true ability he has as a runner and a pass catcher. The last guy I'm going to talk about in the running back group is going to be Miles Sanders, who goes up against the Dallas Cowboys with a defensive ranking of 29th overall. Miles Sanders is a guy who's not going to be in your lineup every week, but I think you can play him against Dallas just because of the matchup. And they should be able to basically run the ball whenever they want with Jalen Hurts with Miles Sanders. Having Jalen Hurts at quarterback opens things up a lot for Miles Sanders. And even though Kenny Gainwell is getting into the third down work and passing game work, I'm not going to shy away from Miles Sanders in this matchup against the Cowboys. I'm definitely going to be playing Miles Sanders in a matchup where the Cowboys and Eagles should score a lot of points as well, and it is one of those division games. I think Miles Sanders finishes as a top 20 option this week. Okay, so jumping right into the wide receivers that are must starts this week, I'm going to start with Marquise Brown going up against the Detroit Lions, who rank 23rd overall in total defense, but they are missing 2 of their top corners in Jeff Okudah and then another young corner who also is a starter as well. So they're going to be struggling to find bodies, in the secondary, and Marquise Brown and Lamar Jackson should be able to take full advantage of that. Detroit is susceptible on the ground, and we do know that Baltimore likes to run the ball primarily, so maybe you see a bigger game out of Tyson and those backs, but I think Marquise Brown is going to have another great game to continue his hot streak. He is averaging 6 catches and 91 yards and a touchdown through 2 games this season. And with Rashad Bateman still out, I do like him in this game. They've allowed 6 passing touchdowns as well through 2 games, so that should be a reason you should start him as well. And 13 yards per catch. So per catch that the Detroit Lions defense is giving up, they're giving up 13 yards. And that's just, those are huge chunks. I think that the Ravens are going to destroy the Lions in this game and should be able to put up plenty of points through the air. The second guy I'm going to talk about is DK Metcalf going up against that Minnesota secondary. I like all pieces of this Seattle game just because it should be similar to that one we saw in Arizona, hopefully a little bit more technically sound in terms of turnovers, but I do like DK Metcalf and Chris Carson in this matchup. Of course, I'm not sitting Tyler Lockett, but I think this is the game where DK solidifies himself. He hasn't had a big game in fantasy this year yet, and Tyler Lockett has kind of been the guy they're looking at this point through 2 weeks. But that's going to flip-flop throughout the season. I think DK definitely gets it done against Minnesota's secondary, who is easily the weakest point on their team. They've got a pretty solid front seven, but the secondary is not great with an aging Patrick Peterson back there. And I think after 2 big games from Lockett, DK Metcalf is going to shine in week 3. The third guy I'm going to talk about is Kenny Galladay, another guy who fantasy managers are probably disappointed through what he's done for you this season. But again, this is what we projected as a reason he was going as like the wide receiver 30 in drafts preseason. So, you're not relying on Kenny Galladay. He should be someone that you're considering for your flex spot. And I would definitely play him this week against the Atlanta Falcons, who are probably the worst defense in the NFL, have the worst secondary, that's for sure, and have allowed 8 passing touchdowns through the first 2 games. There's pretty much no doubt that Kenny Galladay finds the end zone for me here. I'd probably be putting money on that actually going into the weekend, but Kenny Galladay isn't someone I'm fading because Sterling Shepard has solidified himself as the clear number 1 option. But Kenny Galladay has also had a solid 14 targets through 2 games and is still nursing that hamstring. I think, now that he should be fully healthy at this point, he should receive a healthy target share and should be fine for you moving forward in plus matchups. The fourth guy I'm going to get into is another disappointing guy that you shouldn't be shying away from this week, and that's A.J. Brown going up against the Indianapolis Colts defense. And they're actually ranking 29th right now, which is surprising through the first 2 weeks. They've given it up through the air. They've given it up on the ground. I think that A.J. Brown is poised to have his bounce back game with a slow start to the 2020 season or 2021 season. He had 8 and 9 targets in those games, just a catch percentage of 50%. So really, really low completion percentage from Ryan Tannehill. He's had bad games back to back, but I think as a whole, this Tennessee offense will get it together and come up with a big win against the Indianapolis Colts this week. Getting into some borderline QB1s that I like this week. I'm going to start with Kirk Cousins going up against that Seattle Seahawks secondary. Again, this is a game I want pieces of. A very high over-under, should be really, really explosive, similar to the one we saw in Arizona between the Vikings and Cardinals. And Seattle ranks, 25th defensively and haven't played a good passing attack yet, really, in Tennessee and Indianapolis. We thought Tennessee's passing attack would be much, much better, but they struggled against the Seahawks, and I'm not ready to give that recognition to the Seahawks defense. For the reasoning for those struggles. We know that Seattle is going to be a really good passing attack. So Kirk Cousins is going to have to, keep up with the Seattle Seahawks defense or offense, putting points on the board. And Kirk Cousins has 7 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions in his career against Seattle. So he's seen success against them before. And I foresee the same thing. The Vikings can definitely upset the Seahawks in this game, but we'll see what ends up happening. Next, I've got Justin Herbert going up against that Kansas City Chiefs defense, ranking 14th throughout 2 games and have allowed 575 passing yards through the air, but just 1 touchdown. So, yards are going to catch up to those touchdowns eventually. And I think that this is the game Justin Herbert can go for 3+ touchdowns. And in his rookie debut against Kansas City, he was 22 for 33 with 311 yards and a touchdown. And that's in his first NFL game ever. So I definitely think he does better than those numbers. And Justin Herbert is back into the QB1 conversation after this week. And the final guy I'm going to talk about, which is Matthew Stafford up against Tampa Bay. Again, my MVP candidate. I think Matthew Stafford is just going to tear it up this season like he has through the first 2 weeks. So they're going up against a Tampa Bay secondary who ranks 30th overall in passing yards. And that's due to their secondary being really, really banged up. Sean Murphy-Bunting went to IR after week 2. And now you have Carlton Davis, who has yet to practice this week. If Carlton Davis is also out, the Matthew Stafford and Los Angeles Rams passing attack is really, really going to have a great game. So with Darrell Henderson also banged up, I forgot about that. You've got Darrell Henderson for the Rams, the starting running back, banged up as well. So if you only have Sony Michel back there, I don't think they're going to give him more than 12 carries, and the Rams passing attack is going to have to carry them this game. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys some tight end streamers this week. These aren't guys that are must starts, but at the tight end position, you definitely know who you're going to start already. So just to give you some names that are flyers, really, that I think could have potentially top 10 weeks. I've got Evan Ingram going against the Atlanta Falcons. Evan Ingram hasn't played this season due to an injury, so he's practiced all week and should be on track to play against the Falcons secondary again, which is worse than the league. So I'm a little bit interested in Evan Ingram if you have no other options. I don't think that's a bad option for you. Another one is Pat Freiermuth going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, this one is in large part to Deontay Johnson not practicing this week either. And if Deontay Johnson is going to be out, I think Pat Freiermuth at least finds the end zone one time and potentially could have 4 or more catches. He's going to get more involved in this offense throughout the season, and Ben Roethlisberger has already talked him up as being that Heath Miller 2.0. So they're going to want to get him involved, and I think this is the week where he can potentially fall into the end zone. Another guy I'm talking about is another Los Angeles Ram, and that's Tyler Higbee going up against the Tampa Bay Bucks, but Higbee should be in your lineup every week at this point. I think with Matthew Stafford at quarterback and the Rams offense humming, you never know who's going to score, so Tyler Higbee belongs in your lineup, and that's going to be it for my tight end streamers for week 3. That's going to do it for today's video, though. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. If you can follow these social links here on the screen, that would be awesome. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I've got your week 3 must-sits coming tomorrow.